Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. This is Noah.
And this is Jesse.
All right, Jesse. Hey, and to everyone out there, hopefully you guys had a great week. I know I spent my week house sitting over at my parents' house, and I went and seen Top Gun like 2 more times, so a total of 3 times. And I think we have to put this one to rest before we go any further. Who was the better pilot?
Oh, man, Maverick.
I agree.
Maverick was absolutely the better pilot. And interestingly enough, that gets brought up. The question gets brought up on more than one occasion during the movie. And it was literally the focus of our pre-Top Gun 2 Maverick show when we did the original Top Gun movie review.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought we had to bring that up, and we totally missed the ball on that one the last episode. But hey, at least we talked about it now. Maverick was the better pilot. And as we both stated, we thought Iceman was the better man, and I think it kind of showed in the movie too with him being the admiral and watching out for Maverick. So, anything else you want to say on that final notes there?
No, I didn't go see it 2 more times like you, just once more so far.
Just
but I'm
once more.
planning on seeing it again. Absolutely. I will probably see this easily 4 times. If my parents were more mobile, I would absolutely take them to go see it in the theater because it is a movie I believe should be viewed on the big screen. It was that great.
Definitely, this one does need to be viewed on the big screen. And if you can, you want to go to one that has like a good sound system, like the Dolby Atmos theater. Because like when you hear those engines roar, it just totally shakes the whole theater. And you're just like, yeah, this is badass.
When I really thought about it, and after seeing it the second time with my kiddos and then going to talk to my parents with my kiddos about it, one of the things that I have to revisit is one of the things about this movie that makes it so great to me is that as an American, this movie actually gives me hope in one of the darkest times in my life. We're talking about an economy that's more shaky than the week following the 9/11 Twin Towers incident. The economy is in the toilet. It's rough. And as a parent and even just an American, that's a little scary knowing my invested dollars are whirling around in a hurricane of who knows what. And Tom Cruise gave me hope. I would love someday to meet this guy and just thank him for, if nothing else, really bringing this movie to life, to bring it to us as Americans or to anyone who watches it for that matter, because it literally gave me hope. And I love the fact that this guy and so many people throughout my years have not liked Tom Cruise. And it's like, well, what is it you don't like about him? Well, this and that and the other. And it always comes down to something they didn't like about with a parent. And why, it's almost very Amber Heard-esque in the sense of he was guilty before proven innocent, and he never got a chance, didn't find it necessary, did what was best for his kids. And I love that about this man who at the end of the day was and is a man who goes out and he not only does he pay his bills and lots of other people's, but he goes out and still continues to develop things that are entertaining, meaningful, and have actually given me hope. And that is rare, especially at this age. Tom Cruise, if you're ever out there, you ever watch this show, you hear this. Thank you for giving this adult male with 2 kids hope.
Hey, you bring up a great point. I think our economy hasn't been this bad since the Carter years.
Dude, it's terrible.
And maybe we may even have to go all the way back to the 20s to see how bad this economy is. But you're right. This movie, talk about perfect timing. This movie came out at the right time. It did give everyone that. I don't know. It gave me hope too. And I don't have I don't have 2 kids, and so I have to kind of live vicariously through both you and Brian, and have to kind of take my my points here from you guys on what it's like to be a parent. And I can't imagine how the future would look for as a parent for their child. I can tell you right now, if I were to have a child, I'd be very cautious about wanting to bring a child into this world right now that we're living in, because it's crazy.
It's just scary. It's out of control, and being out of control never feels good. It just never feels good.
All right. Well, I think we got like way off track. That's my fault here.
Hey, it was a good point to bring up a movie where we had a lot of fun during the podcast, maybe too much fun. And man, was not planned on getting that loose-lipped at some points, but it's good to revisit that because again, for me, like Tom Cruise, you are the man.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so this evening, for those of you who held through our little tirade there, this evening we are going to be covering the Glenfarclas 17. Ooh, I can't wait to try this, buddy. This is going to be really good. And then we have our shout-outs and get-it-togethers. Restaurant review. I forget the name of the restaurant.
Las Brisas.
Great food.
Oh, man, it was a treat.
It was definitely a treat. And our topic tonight is the moon landing. Was it real or was it fake?
Yes, and when we say that, we're most emphasizing the original moon landing.
Scotch Reviewed.
After this Glenfarclas 17, Glenfarclas a Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. This one's a 43% ABV. If you want to know more about the Glenfarclas house of Scotch, please revisit some of our other shows because we could talk about it for hours. It's great. It's in movies like The Gentleman, not this particular version, but the 40-year-old. And they really believe in making a great Scotch whiskey. And they have succeeded. Now, the 10, the first one we had on the show, was a little young. That is the truth. It was still good. Brian made the comment about how it had such a long finish that made it overcome any of the questions about the initial taste, which we all have agreed at this point. Yeah. If you're having to sip it every 2 seconds, it's probably not the best Scotch.
Right.
And as we've gone up through the different ages, increased the time they have spent in their oak barrels, they've only gotten better. So this one we are super excited about. Pretty simple tin. This one's almost a coppery brown, would you call it? Not so much copper, but more brown. A tan, kind of like a...
I was going to say like
leather.
Yeah, maybe
leather.
Brown leather, brick. Brown, I'm not really sure.
It's not a bad color, but I don't know it's the best color. It's not sexy.
No, it's not sexy. I'll give you that.
The bottle, always a good bottle. It's a well-known bottle. You can't go wrong with this bottle. Simple, classy, great colors. Looking forward to it. They use I think it's always had the copper top here.
I wonder if the copper top is supposed to be in relation to like
copper stills. Yeah.
Okay.
I am sure because they're super proud of their stills.
Yeah, they are. And for those of you who don't remember, this has been family owned for over 5 generations.
Yeah, 180 years roughly.
Right.
That's amazing. Also unheard of. The Macallan doesn't even have that.
No, they don't. In fact, I think it started being owned by one family starting in 1865, right? So as you're opening that up and pouring it, the one thing I'll point out that we haven't really talked about before is that they do have their tour center open up in 1973, and you can do the classic tour where it's about an hour and a half long, and it costs about $9.38 to do. But where it gets really interesting is when you do the connoisseur tour. That's about anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours. Costs $50.
Still nothing.
And you get a tasting from one of the family casks, which is supposed to be pretty good. And then you get 4 other tastes from like what they call the Grant family expressions.
And I like the fact that they do that. You have mentioned yourself in the past, and as they obviously do, they take some of their best barrels, or casks, family cask, and they save them for themselves. A little selfish. They still share, right? He drops here and there. but somewhat selfish for the best. And you yourself had mentioned with the Dalmore 15, yeah, it's not a Scotch you're bringing over to a card party for a bunch of guys who won't appreciate a Scotch of that caliber. It'd go to waste, and you're going to save it for yourself.
Well, and it gets even better if you like that, because they have one more step up, and this one's called the 5 Decades Tour.
Okay, $250.
And that one is actually $156.
That's it?
That's it. And it's about 2 to 2.5 hours once again. And this consists of the family casks once again, but you get you get a taste from one family cask from the last 5 decades. So that starts in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Yeah. So and so I figured we'd go ahead and mention that to you guys, since we talked about Glenfarclas and some of our other episodes, but I don't think I ever talked about their tours.
No, and I'm telling you right now, I'd find the money. I'd go stand on a street corner to do that Decades Tour.
The Decades Tour would be awesome.
Need $149 more to get my Decades Tour going. As soon as I got that, need $1,700 for round trip air flight.
And since I did mention in the U.S. dollars, because we're in the United States, but if you are over in the U.K., the standard is $7.50, 40 quid for the connoisseur, and then 125 quid for the 5 Decades Tour.
That's awesome.
All right. Cheers, and I guess we'll do our
cheers.
Warp speed. So here, what I got on this color here, I'm assuming I'm going first like normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
I have here is an orange gold color. It's a little bit on the orange side. It's not quite as brassy, goldy as I like, but it's still kind of in the darker tier, like the lighter, darker tier, I guess, which is pretty nice. I do like that. As far as the nose go, I got like hints of cocoa, toffee, sherried pills, which I think kind of gives it that sweet flavor that you were kind of mentioning to me earlier, as well as a little bit of peat. Now, when I go and I go to drink it on my palate, this is where I get. It's like it's smooth, it's light. It does it carries that smoothness carries all the way through, from the beginning of the palate to the end. As far as the flavors I'm getting on there, I get like candied fruit, or maybe it's the peels, dried peels maybe. And then you definitely get that sweetness from the sherry, and you also get hints of spice. But I didn't really want to bring up the hints of spice too much on the palate there, because I think where you really start to notice that the cinnamon, that spice from the cinnamon is right there in the finish, because you get hit with that first, and then you get the hint of the smoke to finish up. And it's a pretty nice medium to long finish. It's an enjoyable one. Here's another one I probably would not take to my buddies.
Yeah, this one's right around the $120, $130 price point.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it to poker night. This is another one I probably share with just like a couple good friends sitting around the fire pit smoking smoking a cigar and maybe having a steak dinner or something.
It sounds pretty good.
Or go out and play golf and have it stashed in my golf bag.
Yeah. What's that? It's the gas for the golf cart. It's electric. Don't worry about it.
Right?
I got this. For me, a lot of the same notes, not necessarily in the same order. I think this Scotch is outstanding. Now, I think part of that, and I have to be honest, is I absolutely fell in love with this Scotch when I saw it in The Gentleman, and thinking about that whole experience, the exchange while they're drinking the Scotch, well played, really made me want to try it. And then doing some of the research, finding out, I really do believe that this family is fully invested in making their Scotch whiskeys, that I think you do taste some of that in there. Again, the 10 wasn't necessarily the most mature Scotch, maybe not even quite ready, could have aged 2 more years to double the effect, but it was still great. For me, color, medium gold. It's not as dark as I thought it might be based on some of the other expressions that we've had around the same age. The nose. Oh man, toffee, malt. You mentioned the sherried peels. I kind of get a little bit of that. And then I get this hint of dates. And I'm talking about the little cubed, almost candied dates that aren't too sweet, but they add just a little bit in there. And that's probably from the sherried peels and other pieces, whatever they may have done on the palate as you move on. You mentioned this in a different way, but what I'm going to say is this is a creamy, smooth from start to almost finish. There's that little spike. If you're giving this a 10-second journey of flavor, there's a spike of cinnamon right around 7, and then it mellows back to creamy and peat. For me, some of those flavors in there, buttery toffee. You get the toffee. The dates again, that little bit of, I think it's coming from the sherry casks or however they have introduced that sherry flavor into this. It's outstanding. That cinnamon as we get to the finish, that cinnamon kick, I kind of love it. It's warming. And this is a great Scotch. Definitely can see this being one you'd want to keep on the shelf for a celebration.
Not too long as we remember.
Yeah. Once you get past the halfway point of that bottle, you got maybe a year.
And as you're going through yours, I actually picked up another hint there. To me, it tastes like in the finish, I got a little bit more of a mocha or cocoa. I think as we keep drinking this throughout the show, I think we're going to pick up some other details.
I can't believe how creamy it is.
It is
throughout. It is amazing. And when you think of different flavors, and then you think about those flavors, including the cinnamon as it's getting this chance to breathe, being a creamy cinnamon, it's fantastic.
I agree. Hey, you had that cinnamon thing from dinner, right?
Yeah, I didn't eat it because I was going to, and then I'm like, I'm going to totally wreck this Scotch.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Glenfarclas?
No,
17?
2 thumbs up for me.
It's time for our shout-outs.
My shout out and my get it together kind of go hand in hand, because after seeing Top Gun Maverick and with my kiddos and then going and talking to my parents, of course, politics come up. And with that, I really started asking, and I was trying to get a feel of the impression of my daughter and my son on the political world. And I said, I really hope the people who voted Biden in realize what they did to everyone. Now, I don't think Biden actually did win the vote. As more and more fun facts come out, it looks like more and more fraud has happened. Whether or not he got it, at this point, it's kind of it's too late. Even the votes he did get was enough to make it happen. So for that, the comment again was, I really hope the people who helped Biden get into office realized what they were going to do to all of the American people on average. Now, the billionaires and the millionaires and the people making $250K plus a year probably aren't feeling the prices of steak almost doubling in price, chicken going up 60% now, restaurants and wings and everything else going up 40%, gas up almost 180%. Some of these things keep going on depending on where you're living. Some of these numbers may seem inflated or underinflated if you live in California. With that, though, I asked, I really hope they understand. And my daughter and son, particularly daughter, was really quick to answer, I don't think they do, Dad. I don't think they hold themselves accountable at all, that they care or realize what they did. They just hated Trump. And I was like, well, why do you think, like, why is that what makes a decision? She's like, because they're not thinking about what's best for the whole. They're thinking about what they do and don't like emotionally, as opposed to what's going to keep their pockets growing, their bank accounts growing, their stocks, and maybe it's crypto growing. And instead, everything has been shrinking except for the prices we're all paying, which is making everything that we currently own shrink. And now it's starting to hit the housing market. I don't know that after 2 years of damage, the Fed had much of a choice to slow inflation, particularly around the housing market. But it is having a big impact on everyone. The economy is in turmoil. I'm worried. The 18.
So I'm sorry. I get that's the get it together part.
The get together is for everyone who doesn't own their vote for Biden having an impact on the rest of us who didn't. And my shout out
Biden voters.
Yeah, my shout out. Well, not all the Biden voters. There are going to be the millionaires and the billionaires who are like, yeah, go Biden. I don't feel any pain. No, they own it. They don't feel it. For the ones who are feeling the pain and still blaming somebody other than themselves for being a part of that, or at least not owning any of it, that's the trouble. The shout out to everyone out there who's starting to realize, hey, when I take this vote and I cast it, I'm having an impact and I should own that.
That's actually, I agree with both of those. I think that's a great shout out, and I think that's a great get it together, because honestly, unless you're like really 110% behind the whole Green New Deal and you want to get rid of like gas and no meat for people and all that kind of crazy stuff, I don't see how you could be happy with Biden at this point.
Well, even in California, who's you could say is at the far front of a lot of the Green New Deal, they are running into problems where there aren't enough charging stations for all the people who bought their electric cars.
And here's a weird part here. I'm not sure if these people understand it, but
they did this.
Not only did they do this, but the electric cars, the amount of pollution that gets put out by the power plants and the batteries and all that, you're doing just as much damage to the earth as you were with the oil.
Yeah.
So,
if not more.
Yeah. And I don't think they really understand that.
It's not even, we've talked about it for 2 years now, and we've talked about it for a year plus on our show. The problem is that everyone wants these electric cars, and they're fast and they're fun. And if you haven't driven one, I fully support you getting out there, driving one. They accelerate great. Most of the technology in them is very new. So they stop very well. A lot of driving assists, a lot of technology in there. But the problem really comes down to, you can have all these electric vehicles, but yes, when you're still burning fossil fuels in diesel generators, as you're trying to make a trip that's over 500 miles from point A to point B, and you have to stop at a diesel generator generating electricity so you can charge your car halfway between here and Las Vegas. Danger, high voltage.
What happens when an EMP hits?
Not just that. I mean, there's a ton of things I don't understand, and maybe that's my struggle. Is I see it so simply. Okay, so if you want to have a gasoline powered car, you gotta have gas. U.S. 2 years ago, #1 distributor in the world as far as a single country, as far as distributing gas, and we're good. And then, no, now we can't have gas. So we got electric cars. Okay, electric cars, great. We got to generate electricity. Our power grids are going haywire left and right. Our power plants are aging. No new power plants have been created. Europe is a prime example for what is not to do, and we are following their suit. Like, what is wrong with this picture? Obama, during his first election, before he was elected the first time, promised he was going to have more nuclear power plants created, and he did not do that at all. And that is, to this day, the second thing that I'm most offended about by Obama. The first was killing NASA. Thank God Trump brought it back.
I think Obama tells about as much truth as Biden does. But
I mean, I didn't have a whole lot against Obama. And when he was saying nuclear, I'm like, okay, there's a chance. And then that didn't happen. Now there's no chance. All the electric cars in the world, no electricity. You can't put up enough wind farms for that.
Nope. And that also hurts the environment anyways with birds and things like that.
Birds and bees and...
Yep. So we'll just leave that right there with shout outs and get together because I'll just jump on with that. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying there.
Yeah, thank you. I think it really stemmed also from, again, Tom Cruise. You are the man. Great movie, and makes people really consider what are they owning or not. Of Las Brisas. I have wanted to try this restaurant for like 25 years. It sits right there at Clinton and Arapahoe Road, tucked into the parking lot. Really, what would you say? Like not even 100 yards away from the Target there, which is also a relic. Target 147, been there for ages. So this restaurant's been there for a long time, and I've wanted to go, and we finally did it. And except for the rice, everything was great.
Yeah, I would say it'd be really easy for you. Like, as you're talking about when you first come in, you're not lying. It's like right there. If you're not really paying attention, it'd be pretty easy to miss.
Yeah. As we went in, I thought the decor was pretty nice. On the outside, it's not the greatest.
No.
It's kind of boring, actually. Like the meatball eatery on the farther side of the parking lot is far greater. That's a sexy building at this point. They have continued to do well. Las Brisas on the outside, it's just kind of tucked in there. They haven't done a whole lot, no color, nothing exciting. But you go inside, and the interior decor was pretty great.
Yeah, I liked it. I loved like the chairs in there, and you can hear the water fountain that's going on, and they had like this really nice. Was it a furnace or not a furnace, but it wasn't a fireplace. It's one of those things where you put the wood in. I forget what they're called. Wood burning like, stove, maybe?
I think it's, yeah. Brick oven, wood burning stove type of setup.
Yeah, that looked really nice there in that other little section of the dining room.
Yeah. I think that's their attempt at romance. Turn up the heat, keep the water going, make sure it's wet and warm.
Yeah, but it's really nice in the inside. It's like you said, the decor is really well done.
And as we started through our journey of food at the restaurant, both had a house margarita. Margaritas are not your favorite. I do like a good margarita, although if I drink more than two anymore, I get so much heartburn, it's not worth it. The margarita to me was pretty good. It had some great flavor, not too sweet, which is a big piece.
I thought the margarita was okay. Not one to write home to, but I agree with you, not very sweet, so it'd probably be one I drink more often than not.
Yeah. All right. So for my dinner, and they had some great salsa. Their salsa was great. Their chips were good. Their salsa was great, though. That I don't know what spice they put in there, if it was just red chili or what, but it had some kick, but not too much. I do not like hot foods. It had just enough. I would actually buy jars of that to throw on to things to bring home. If they haven't thought about that, we should go tell them and then figure out a way to make some money. I'm sure they can, use the money themselves. So for my entree, I had, and so I got to also say, I looked at this place for the last 25 years, and one of the reasons it wasn't like a huge draw is I'm like, all right, so it's your average little Mexican restaurant. Been here forever, probably pretty good. Go in and look at the menu. There's not a whole lot of average anything on this menu. Again, the salsa was fantastic. The margarita good. The dinner menu was exciting. Things on here I don't know that I've experienced anywhere else. So I had the relleno de mariscos. So right around the $17 price point. Pretty reasonable because you have scallops, shrimp, and crab meat wrapped in a blue corn tortilla accompanied by a crispy chile relleno topped with pico de gallo and a choice of lobster or chipotle cream sauce. I did half and half with the lobster and the half chipotle cream sauce. You didn't go wrong if you chose either one of them. I did prefer the lobster just a little bit, but both were outstanding. Overall, except for the rice, the black beans were good. The dinner itself was outstanding. The server was pretty good. How about your meal?
Oh, my meal.
Dude, next level, just saying.
My meal was incredible. I loved it. I loved every minute of my meal. I got the swordfish fajitas.
Again, not your average Mexican restaurant. It was a Latin restaurant, and we're talking about like Europe Latin.
Yeah, there was definitely some like things in there I would have never seen at a Mexican place. But this one, yeah, they had this. To me, here's what I was looking at. I'm like, okay, normally when I go to a Mexican restaurant, I'll just get a beef burrito smothered in hatch green chili sauce. With like guacamole and sour cream, lettuce and tomato. But this time I'm like, you know what? I'm at a new restaurant. This place has like some unique items on their menu. Let's go big.
When he says unique, get ready for this.
So I did. So I went with unique. So I went with the swordfish fajita. It was grilled to perfection. It was so great. A small piece of it.
It was perfect.
And I also got black beans with mine. They give you a choice of black beans, refried or pinto, I think it was. So I went black beans, but it's just like the rest of it is like your normal kind of like fajita setup. But really, just what really kicked it over the top though was that swordfish. It was so incredibly good. And to your point with the salsa, oh my gosh, that salsa was good. And I totally agree with you. That'd be something like just to go there, just to buy the salsa and bring it home and have like just chips and salsa at home.
Absolutely, so. Game night.
Yeah, right. And my meal was $26. It was a little bit more than what I had anticipated on paying for dinner tonight, but go big or go home, I guess. Like it was great. If you want to try something new and different, and you want something that's good, definitely that's the way to go.
Now it's a little interesting because their hours of operation, partially, I'm sure, because of where they're located, are a little bit different. They close at 8:30 p.m., which is pretty early. At least that's 8:30 p.m. on a weekday. And as we went on Monday, that's pretty early. So date worthy, if you're looking for a total experience inside, would I take a first date there? Absolutely. Again, don't let the outside of this book be its judge. Don't judge this book by its cover, because the inside was nice. The food,
great.
Man, if you can't find something exciting on that menu, it reminds me of Machete with their lobster tacos, all right? If you can't find something exciting on this menu, if she can't do that, do not take her on a second date, because this menu was fun.
It was.
I loved the menu. And even for me, I'm like, wow, really? I'm going to basically have a blue corn enchilada with shrimp, scallops, and crab meat?
Okay.
Yes, please. Like, oh, yeah, okay. So first date worthy, absolutely. Second date worthy, go with a friend, yes. For a weekend type of thing, again, not open super late. That's where it kind of loses some of its sex appeal if you're trying to stay out till 9, 10, or later. But otherwise, food for me, man, it's like 8.5. It's almost a 9. The rice was really just rough. But everything else, like if you take just the entree, we're going to go entree and salsa, 9. Everything else, though, drops it to an 8.5. For me, the service he was good, not great, an 8. Did his job well, not intrusive, got our food, took care of us. Value, I think value-wise we also won. We had a coupon. He took care of us. So overall for me, and this is interesting because I don't know that a whole lot of like Latin or Mexican styled themed food restaurants would get a whole lot of score for me. And I usually try to steer clear of the halves, but it's not a 9, but it's more than an 8. So I got to give it an 8.5.
I would say that an 8.5 is actually a pretty good score, by the way, for those of you who are keeping count out there.
Oh yeah.
Food, I'm gonna give mine like a 9.5.
Dude, yours was dynamite. That one piece I had, I was like, damn, mine's delicious. This is next level. It was literally swordfish cooked to perfection.
It was. They did a really good job for it. So I'm gonna give it about a 9.5. For originality and their menu, that's gotta give it at least a 9 there. Atmosphere, like once again, don't judge the book by its cover, as Jesse has mentioned. But when you go inside, I'll give the decor probably like an 8. Definitely first date worthy, second date worthy. Meeting friends there. I do agree with you. Like any good restaurant probably should be open until about like 10, 11 o'clock at night, especially during the like Friday, Saturdays, maybe even Thursdays. And I think overall, I'm going to give it a 9.
Yeah. It was a good experience.
And the reason why I'm giving it a 9 is because I'm comparing it to other Mexican restaurants, and I don't think any other Mexican restaurant can really match that. I mean, Real de Minas, very good, but over there, their dishes are pretty much the norm, and I think that's what this one sticks out a little bit more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Smarter challenges.
The Apollo 11 NASA mission, where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin launched off of the Earth's surface and reportedly walked on the surface of the moon July 20th, 1969. Fact or fiction? Dun dun dun.
Dum dum dum.
What do you think?
Well, I think there's enough things out there to make you question about whether or not it really did occur. There's a lot of things that there's a lot of like History Channel specials and things like that are set up there to debunk the fake moon landing theory. And really, if it's something that was like so true that it was like no question about it, you wouldn't have to like have all these debunking specials to debunk that. So there's obviously things that the government must have done or did do, which like I say must have done. They did do this to cause people to doubt whether or not it really truly did occur. I'm gonna save to a little bit later what I really actually believe if it was real or fake. But I figure we can talk about a few things before we get to that point. Do you want to reveal right away or no?
No, we can reveal at the end.
Okay.
Maybe we'll convince each other a different opinion.
Okay.
So a couple, things to think about here. Again, we mentioned July 20th, 1969. Now, as we have visited more than one conspiracy theory on the show, another one that happened roughly 6 years earlier, Kennedy assassination. So one of the biggest things, the arguments that there's no way it could have been faked, is the fact that the video film of the landing and on the moon was filmed in 10 frame per second slow scan television. And that all the studios at that point were using 30 frame per second. How is that evidence that it couldn't have happened in the studio because they were using a slower camera? Now, if you're telling me, well, they were using NASA technology that would only work on the lunar moon surface, that's a whole different story. But telling me, oh, yeah, there's no way that happened because they were using a Polaroid, and in studios they're using digital cameras. So what are you saying? You can't take a Polaroid to the studio to fake it? Like, wait a minute. No. So that's my first thing. But when we talked about that and the Kennedy assassination, as more and more evidence has come out, they absolutely adulterated and changed the video of the Kennedy assassination, the cars that drove by, the gutter, the sewer drain, everything else. So to think that 6 years later we couldn't do that is kind of naive. But the real part that kills me is, why are you trying to convince me that it couldn't be fake because they used inferior, not superior, but inferior technology?
All right, so my first thing to point out, and this is just real minor before I actually get into my real first point. Do you trust the government? If you are naive enough to say you fully 100% trust the government, then you might believe the moon landing it happened. Second thing, do you trust the media? And if you say that you trust the media and you're naive enough to say yes to that as well, then you might believe that the moon landing happened. Now, for my first real point here, I'm going to bring up this gentleman. His name is Marcus Allen from Nexus Magazine. He's been writing about the moon landing for quite a while. He's been on Coast to Coast with George Norrie and also with Art Bell. And one of the things he talks about is the entry back into the Earth. He's like, we have the technology to get to the moon, and he doesn't question that part. The part he starts questioning here is on the return. Now, on the return, there's like a really small window of opportunity to make it back in through Earth's atmosphere coming back. And he's talking about like when you come back, because there's no brakes, you're going to be going faster than those people who are in the low orbit. And so he says the probability of someone actually aiming it in there with the technology that they had back then is if we had two people, one person on the Empire State Building, another person down below. The person on top of the Empire State Building is going to drop a marble that's 1 inch in diameter, and the person on the bottom is going to have a beer mug, and they have to catch the marble 6 times in a row. And that's the same probability to have someone go from the moon back to Earth and getting the right trajectory going in, so that way they don't burn up, or having the right speed and trajectory so they don't bounce off the atmosphere and go off into space. So that window is so small and minute, the probability of someone going in there without the right technology and being like spot on is almost impossible.
You bring up an interesting point here. And I think that's another thing when everyone tries to prove that the conspiracy could never have happened. So you mentioned that dropping a 1 inch marble top of the Empire State Building into a coffee mug 6 times in a row. Why is it? Because I'm actually not questioning the other 5 moon landings. I'm questioning the first one. Only one. Why is it that the immediate response is, well, all 6 times we were here and here? No. Don't tell me about the 4th and 5th and 6th times. Tell me about the first time. Well, no, but the 3rd time. No. Tell me about the first time. And the thing there is they're absolutely using over a decade's worth of technology improvements things, because I do believe we've been to the moon. I have zero doubt about that, like in my heart. My question has always come to the first one, and the questions you posed of, do you trust your government? Well, not after they assassinated Kennedy and we're dealing with the president in office that was involved in that. And also, do you trust the media? Well, look again, we've talked about how is it that during Gulf War, we had constant ideas of what was going on in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, all of these things. And here in Kuwait and Russia, we have no idea. We don't get to see anything except for fake video of, there's this terrible Ukrainian town of all these people killed and left on the side of the road. And as the camera goes by, they didn't realize the side view mirror is catching them get up because they weren't told to stay down until it was all over. Fake war. Now, I do think the war is real. I'm thinking they're playing on heartstrings, and it's ridiculous to me. So with that, again, stop trying to divert the attention to the first moon landing and to the other 5, really just focus on the first. With that, my point that goes along with that is we were in America's biggest arms and science, really, technology war race of our history. At that point in time, it was the United States Cold War versus Russia. This is all getting ready to become a bigger deal than ever. And we had to be first. I got to admit, I'm a pretty honest guy. I play
We were
poker.
getting our asses kicked.
We were getting our asses kicked. And that's what I'm saying is I got to admit, I'm a straight poker player. I'm not the best at poker because my poker face isn't that great. But at the end of the day, if I had to cheat, I would seriously consider it if I was trying to contain and keep the American public in my good grace.
Yeah, so with what you're mentioning there, Russia had already sent a man up into space. They already sent the monkey into space. They already had their first satellite in space. So they were totally kicking our ass before we even got off the ground. And the thing is, like, we even had Project Paperclip going, if we really want to dive in there, where we brought over the German scientists over there. So is it von Braun? Is that, I'm not sure if that's the guy's name. I think it was, who did create the V2 rockets.
Yeah, from Germany, yes. Yep.
So he became the head person of basically NASA, right? In our Apollo program and stuff like that. But we were still way behind the Soviet Union at that point, or Russia. So here to go with your, like, if I had if I wanted to be the first to the moon and I knew we weren't going to make it, then you would cheat.
Yeah.
And this is also something that is undeniable. Everyone knows that this happened, but there was multiple stages of where they filmed to practice the moon landing with the rovers and stuff like that. And and everyone who worked on it all documented, saying, like, we got, like, super close to what it would be in real life.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about the video, one of the rumors out there is that Stanley Kubrick was involved, and the only argument anyone ever has about, oh no, Stanley Kubrick wouldn't have done it. Why not? He was such a perfectionist. He would have required for the moon landing to be filmed on location on the moon. Unless you're trying to pull off the greatest trick in American history.
Well, there's a documentary called Room 132 or what is that? What the famous room is from The Shining?
Oh, I don't remember the room, but
there's a documentary about that room,
the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, and they talk about, like, how Kubrick used the Shining to pretty much say that he did direct the moon landing, and that was, like, part of using that little kid's sweater with the rocket that says USA on there.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you point that out, because I think there's some truths to that, as well as it was only 2 years later, after Apollo 11 reportedly landed on the moon, that James Bond, is in Diamonds Are Forever, made fun of the fake moon landing. 2 years later, like immediately after.
So the team in question, right? So we talked about all this stuff, right? There's also the whole fact, like, people would not think that the moon landing was fake unless the government did something shady. There's that moon rock. Was it the New Zealand moon rock or Australian moon rock or something? One of the moon rocks, it was fake. And then you go looking at the pictures. So you talked about cameras, right? Those slow cameras. Well, the cameras that they use for the still pictures, those cameras are super heavy. So one of the reasons why they said that it was just Buzz Aldrin and
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong in the landing module, whatever it's called, was because they couldn't have too much weight in there for a third person. But the cameras, with how much film that they took,
thousands of feet, would weigh almost like having a third person in there, because each one of those would be, like, close to, like, 70 some odd pounds or something like that. So you're talking two cameras with like thousands of feet of film. You could have had a third person in there easily.
And then, there's things that people point out in the pictures and stuff like that. There's, like, not from the first landing. I know you talked about, like, this is mainly about the first landing, but in one of the other landings with Al Shepard, that's where he does that famous golf shot, saying that the ball goes on and on and on. Well, the other astronaut in there was Mitchell, and in the picture where where Al Shepard is, like, hitting the golf ball, Mitchell's also in the picture. And NASA even had to admit later on that it was a fake. So if NASA is admitting after things being pointed out to them that these pictures are fake, there was a fake moon rock, it's almost impossible. Like, it's almost totally impossible for someone to shoot in to that tiny window to come back to Earth. And the things that you mentioned as well, it's easy to question why this may not have happened.
Yeah. we're talking 9 years later, 1978, Peter Hyman came out with a film called Capricorn 1, which went through to fake a Mars landing and then later reportedly come out and admit to the people of the world that the Mars landing was fake. I'm literally looking at this thinking, that's a good way to research how people would react.
Right.
Oh, hey, guys, don't do it. The movie didn't go well. People hated it. And don't tell them the moon landing was fake. Also, it's a great pride point in American history.
It is.
And I think that, if nothing else, is one of the reasons we would never know the truth.
Yeah, there's also another one of the pictures. I think it was Buzz Aldrin. Took a picture of, who's the other guy?
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong. Or maybe it's the other way around. But when you look at the picture in the helmet, you can make out possibly that there was a photographer in there.
Weird,
right? So now let's just say, for instance, if they did use fake rocks and fake pictures, but they actually went to the moon and we actually went there, what would be some reasons why that would happen?
I mean, that's just the point, is that it didn't happen. The first landing didn't happen. Beyond that, there's proof of life and other things, biological contaminants. I don't know, maybe COVID-19, 20, 28, 35, whatever's next. Biological contaminants and other things. One of the things that, when I think of the multiple moon landings, that really stands out to me is that with the first moon landing, they came back and everything was good. Everything's cool. Everything's cool. Everything's not cool. As we learned from the other moon landings, where I think you see there was some truth, which is these astronauts come back and they're being interviewed and they look like they just saw a ghost or an alien or something, maybe a transformer on the dark side of the moon. Who knows? But they literally look like they just saw a ghost. The first ones were like, yeah, I'm not impacted at all. That wasn't scary. That was fun. Nothing fun about that.
Well, see, I think you're right on the right subject there. I think where I was kind of going with that, why would you fake pictures if, like, let's say you went up to the moon and there was already aliens there or other life forms, and they told and basically either the government wants to keep it from the populace because they know we'd freak out, or B, since they are maybe an advanced technology race, they basically said, you do not report about us being here. I mean, those are possibilities. Or, another possibility could be like maybe the cameras and stuff didn't work.
Hollow moon theory, another one.
Yeah. So, but I do, I'll kind of admit here at this point, I do think we went to the moon. But I think the moon landing itself that we saw on TV and all that stuff and the pictures and that we learned in the history books, I think that was all fake.
July 20th, 1969. Yeah.
And the other thing I have a hard time really believing is a phone call from the White House to them talking. I mean, they say that there was, you could use like shorthand radio to possibly pull that off, but I'm not positive about that.
Let's try it. Elon Musk can prove it or not.
Because they almost made it seem like it's pretty instantaneous when you watch those videos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, but don't you think for 1 second, if it wasn't instantaneous, that they could change the speed to make it look instantaneous? As they couldn't do with the moon coverage, making it look like everything moved slower. Yeah, I think it's a good point. Also, we just couldn't lose the arms race.
No, we couldn't, and that was an important thing there. And I know one of the things that if you go search on Google or whatever, you go do your internet sleuthing, you'll find that Stanley Kubrick's daughter says, "Oh, he never filmed it. It was all just a big hoax." What makes you think that the government didn't pressure her to lie?
Or that she had any idea.
Or, yeah.
If I was Stanley Kubrick that would be literally my like greatest effort of all time would be to do it and tell nobody.
I think he tried to tell somebody on his deathbed.
I wouldn't doubt that.
I think there was an interview or something like that where he talks about it, but like the government denied it, and now his daughter denies it. But I don't know.
Here's the next question with this. What's on the damn dark side of the moon? What is there that makes people turn white like they saw a ghost? And to the point of right before COVID happened, China sent up a spaceship to go take photos and videos of the dark side of the moon.
Right?
Never came back, or at least we don't know of it coming back, and we never saw anything. Because if you can have a radio transmission from the White House to the moon in 1969, you can absolutely send videos and photos back to Earth in 2019 or 2018 and receive them, even if the rocket doesn't come back.
Did it not come back, or did it just not take photos, or I don't remember what happened?
We never got to see any of it. Why is that?
Another good question is, does the moon rotate? Because I thought I read somewhere it doesn't really rotate.
It doesn't. It stays still front to the face of Earth, almost like the back is flat.
And it's thing, you got to think about that.
Oh my God, Becky, check out that butt.
It's so big. 4, 3, 2, 1, Earth below.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. So ultimately, here is what I do and don't believe. I do believe we have been to the moon as American and as astronauts have made it there. I do not believe that first moon landing was real. That's really my belief. The one thing that most people think of, the immediate one out there, is the flag flowing in the wind, and they try to play that one off. Possibly true, by the way, as to they had just put it into the surface of the moon and the flag was still falling, which makes sense. You go up, you go down, flag goes up, flag comes down, it waves. I think that's actually true in the gravity it would have faced or not. But that's not the key point to me. It's just like the Kennedy assassination. It's why I lie about the possibilities of other things.
So here's another question to ask yourself maybe, or just the group in general, whoever's listening to us or watching us. I think it was Bush, the second Bush, who said he wanted us to go back to the moon and it'd take 20 years. Now, how
were we there in 1969?
Able to get there in 1969, and what, in 2012?
20 years.
How is it that we are not, we were way more advanced technology wise? How is it that we're not able to put something together within a few years to go back up to the moon? If we already did it once or
6 times,
over 6 times, and we have much more advanced technology, why would it take us 20 years to go back up to the moon? So that almost makes you question the other 6 times. I don't know. I mean,
it could.
I mean, what would it take that? I mean, you talk about the most wealthy country in the world. You don't think we don't have enough? We borrow enough money from China and everywhere else to where we could build it. I don't think the materials would be an issue.
I'm just going to say Biden.
I mean, if Elon Musk and the Bezos, Amazon guy, if they're shooting rockets out into the atmosphere
and coming back,
how is it that we're not able to go
NASA?
To the moon? Yeah, how is NASA not able to go to the moon? And it's going to take them 20 years. It didn't take them 20 years to build those rockets.
Not even close.
And they don't have all the U.S. taxpayers.
Yeah. No, I know. It's wild to think about the new arms race, and why is it that these privateers, Elon Musk or Bezos, are the ones shooting rockets off? To your point, where's our game?
Yeah, where's the United States?
Where's any country besides China, who supposedly reportedly sent one, although we don't know anything about that?
And why is China trying to if the U.S. has already been to the moon, why is China trying to go to the moon now? After all these years, why are they trying to go to the moon now? or back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I agree. It makes no sense.
So one more thing here. As you saw me earlier today, I was listening to Coast to Coast with George Nori and this guy Marcus Allen, and in the last hour of the show, George Nori did a random poll. He called it a lightning poll or something like that.
Okay.
Where he had his listeners just message in, do you believe in the moon landing or do you believe it was a hoax? And George Nori was actually surprised. I was actually not surprised by the number. I actually thought the numbers would be a little bit different. I thought the people who thought that the moon landing was a hoax, I thought the number would be a little bit higher, but it was at 40%. I thought it would be at 50%.
Well, like nationally, the last like national poll for non-specific show or event watchers is that only 5% of Americans believe it's a hoax.
Really?
Yeah.
5% believe it's a hoax?
Yeah. And the other 95 believe it all really happened.
That's odd because like his show, like this was in this show happened in January of 2022.
Right.
And it was like 40-60. 60 believed it happened and 40 believed it didn't.
And there's a couple things that may be impacting that. It's not
probably
just his show, but also the current state of economic, political, and social, aka media affairs.
Yeah. So obviously his show, his listeners are going to probably be like, let's just be real. Coast to Coast with George Nori, they talk about UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, all that stuff. So I think you're going to have a higher amount of people who believe that the moon landing was a hoax for his listeners, maybe on a national scale. And remember, this is in January. So this is January 26th, this episode. So I think Trump was just about ready to get out of office. So Trump was still in office, I believe, or just left office. So I think if you really were to poll the U.S. populace now, it might be higher than 2%. But to your point, now that people know how much the government lies, how much the media lies, maybe they question.
What can you trust? Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
I mean, how can we even trust our history at this point? Some of it.
Yeah, I think about that once in a while, and I'm like, okay, so we got rid of all these statues in the South because these people were slave owners. You know who else owns slaves? Lincoln. The Lincoln Monument still stands. Are we supposed to get rid of that? A, I certainly hope not. B, the rest of them, whether or not I agreed with them, they're still a piece of history. Like, why are we getting rid of history? You can go to a history museum and see far worse than that. But we're going to take away, monuments, not national monuments per se, but monuments because why?
Well, that's for two things. One, you would have a monument up for just to remind us never to do those things again.
Bingo.
Or two, as a reminder or two, just say, to remind us of how great things were or great things that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be utilized for two different reasons. But removing it, I think, is just pure stupidity.
Right. It's like taking the truth. It's like taking sex ed out of high school and then expecting people to have any idea. Oh, you mean I shouldn't have done that if I didn't want kids when I was 18? Cool. Well, too late now. I'm going to go do it again. What? Welfare! Rest of my life. There's two.
Anything else you want to mention on the moon landing?
No, I think it's a fascinating topic. It's one that I've had many heated debates about with lots of individuals who, at the end of the day, before they do any research, really just they are people who believe in America and science.
I'll bring this up too. My mom, I think when she was younger, she was around to see the moon landing. And she thought it was real when she was younger. But now that after learning everything she's learned about the government and the media, I asked her, and she's like, nope. I don't think it was real.
Yeah, I think that's the truth. I think it was very believable in 1969. And they're saying, oh, it couldn't have been faked. Why doesn't just one person go revisit some of the movies that have come out over the decades? Or why don't we just say, hey, Miramax, any of you main movie houses, Paramount, you guys do your best. show us a fake moon landing. And I will bet you dollars for donuts they could make something look far better than anything we have seen.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But no, it's impossible, really. Nothing's impossible. Except for the first moon landing actually of having happened. And actually, I don't know that. It's just what I believe.
I don't know it either, but I think there's enough circumstantial evidence out there that kind of proves that that could lead, I won't say proves, but that could lead a person to question if it actually did happen.
All right. I will finish my little piece of this.
Okay.
And then if you have anything else. Now, it's interesting because I do think some other truths for not the first moon landing per se, but for the others in particular, whether or not it was possible, whether or not it's dropping a 1-inch marble from the top of the, tallest building in America at a point, down into a coffee mug multiple times in a row, those astronauts were all expendable.
Yes.
And I think they went into it. And I do think that the first astronauts went into orbit and came back knowing they were expendable because no matter what, they were going to be these great big heroes. But what's interesting to me is the revisit of such a situation, a circumstance, an event in Top Gun Maverick. And Maverick sees that the Admiral and others see all of these pilots, people he cares about because they're Americans, by the way, he loves America, these Americans as expendable, and he does not. And you see it from the beginning of the movie on. So the mission is to get in, drop the bombs, and blow up the target. And Maverick's comment is, and get out, sir. And the Admiral's right hand just kind of looks at the Admiral, and the Admiral's like, and get out. And only until Maverick proves it could be done and that he was the choice is there ever that chance.
Yep.
It's interesting because at that point in the time, NASA in particular was all Air Force based.
It is interesting, and I really don't have much more to say. I mentioned, I think it's. Do I believe that we have the capability to get to the moon? I think there's a high probability we actually did make it to the moon, but I believe the actual moon landing that we see in the history books and on the recordings and stuff like that, I think that was fake.
All right. Well, remember, drink responsibly, have a dram, and go watch a fake moon landing.
Let us know about your opinions too.
Yeah.
We want to know if you guys think the moon landing was fake as well.
Absolutely. I would love some great conversation with other points to really see there's always new info. And I'd love to hear your side.
All right. I guess next week's topic. Are we at that point?
I think so.
All right. Next week's topic is going to be the Mandela effect and whether or not we believe the CERN super collider is partially at fault for responsible for the multiple Mandela effects out there. And we'll try to set up something new here, maybe to where we'll see the pictures and we'll throw it up onto the screen, and then we'll talk about which ones we think are the real ones versus what they say is the real one. And I don't know, what are we gonna drink?
Fondue.
Sure, whatever works, whatever's groovy. The Balvenie, the American oak.
Yes. Sweet toast of American oak.
I wonder what the bottle looks like. I never even opened it up.
This is spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. This is what the bottle looks like.
It's a pretty good looking bottle.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it's going to be similar to the canister.
It's kind of how I envision it too.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say to the people before we go?
Remember, drink responsibly. Keep using your head. Hold yourself accountable and responsible. Make good choices for your next fearless leader in politics. And really let us know what you like, don't like about the show, what's great, what's not great. For those of you who were at Top Gun Maverick when we rented the theater, man, give us some dang feedback. You guys have all the reason in the world. You guys have already shared with us a little bit about it was fun, this and that and the other. What are things that would have made it better, because it was absolutely a blast for us. We want to keep doing these things, but we also want things to be value added. So with that.
All right. So with that, I probably should have mentioned this in my shout outs, but maybe I'll mention it next week as well. But thank you, Kathy, for doing a one-time donation to us. We greatly appreciate that. For all of those of you who listen to us on Audible, Spotify, or any other type of Audible type of format, we want to thank you. We had another really great month. It wasn't as good as a couple months ago where we had 70, but we saw it in the mid-50s, so it's still pretty good showing there. So thank you once again for listening to us. For everyone who does watch us on Rumble and YouTube, thank you once again. And with that, cheers. Oh, and before we do go, if you do want to be a Patron member, right down in our description, the very first link there, you'll see the Podbean Patron, and you can click on that link.
It's your first way to get a ticket for the theater rentals.
Exactly.
That's how you end up on the A-list. Literally.
Literally. And Kathy's on the A-list already.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a couple of our other A-listers were in a different state, but they'll be on the next A-list.
Exactly.
All
or
right.
become a co-host.
There you go.
Co-host.
You'll also get A-list status for that.
All right, so Scotchman. Cheers.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.